Hey everybody, John here from the esports department, ready to go over today's two-game slate. Today we got OMG against Victory 5 and LGD against EStar. This, for me, is by far the most interesting slate that we've had thus far. OMG looked awful in their first matchup against RNG, just absolutely terrible. They got massacred. The bot lane in particular looked extremely weak. But they've got a completely different kind of matchup here when they face Victory 5. Victory 5 looked good in their first matchup. As most people know, I was highly touting Victory 5 in their first matchup. They got the 2-0. The new bot lane of Sam D and PP God looked very good. So now they're coming into a matchup here with a team who in theory should be a lot better than them. But as far as what we've seen this season, Victory 5 has definitely looked a little bit better. So OMG sitting currently plus 190 or minus 190, and Victory 5 plus 135. Interesting. I'll talk about that in a minute because I want to talk about the second matchup first as well. LGD and EStar is equally as interesting. LGD running Garvey in the top lane instead of LoMG, who we thought they might run. EStar, same lineup they ran last year, except now with Cryan gone, they have Fen playing the mid lane. This is another matchup where, if you paired these same two teams last year, it was a clear victory for EStar, but LGD has made a lot of changes to their roster coming into this season, and they're one of the most hyped teams in the league, I would say. Mark going to be playing support for this one. Not 100% that I like that one. Kramer as AD carry, what you would expect. They're going to dump ZA directly into the mid lane. They played with Yuki all year last year. Yuki, I thought, had a solid season. It's a little bit odd that they would throw ZA right in there. We saw some other teams not instantly integrate their new players, even if they're very good players, and it seems like LGD is doing that with LoMG, but not doing it with ZA. ZA walking right into the team. You'll see OMG is back to Curse this week as well. I forgot to mention that while we were over there, but they're going to be playing Curse instead of Alias, which I think was always the right thing to be doing. The thing that's interesting for me about this week about this set of games, is I'm not sure where the ownership is going to fall on this slate more so than any slate in a long time. In theory, OMG should be the highest owned team. They're the biggest favorite. But a lot of people are pretty high on Victory 5 after that 2-0. A lot of people are pretty down on OMG after the 2-0 loss to RNG. I could really see V5 getting pretty good ownership here. I'm not sure that I think that OMG is going to get great ownership. And then on the other side, you have two extremely bloody teams in EStar and LGD. LGD extremely hyped coming into this season. A lot of people talking about them as like maybe not a contender to win the league, but like a top 4, top 5 team if their roster works out all right. EStar, who was a lot of people's like favorite saving grace last season, who was one of the most exciting teams in the league. I'm not really 100% sure where I think the ownership is going to go. The LGD EStar game, you're going to see as we go down here, as per usual, that for the most part, LGD and EStar are going to grade out as by far the bloodier game. So I would expect heavier stacks on the LGD and EStar side. When it comes to Victory 5 and OMG, something tells me we're going to see pretty even ownership between OMG and Victory 5. I think a lot of people are going to shoot for trying to get better ownership with V5, and we might even end up with OMG being just maybe slightly higher owned than them. I would guess that the highest owned team on this slate is going to be LGD. It's either them or EStar. I think for sure it's going to be one of these two teams will be the highest owned, and I think they're going to be very close. And then I think, honestly, that these are going to be very close with OMG maybe being slightly heavier owned. So I'm not sure there's a really great place to get an ownership leverage on this slate. I'm going to be very interested to see if I'm wrong and see if there's really low ownership on one of these teams. Maybe EStar, since they lost Cryan. Maybe people have lost faith. If people are really bullish on the new LGD roster. But just generally speaking, I'm very interested in how the ownership is going to turn out on this slate, because I don't really think I have a great feel for exactly how it's going to play out. If I was taking a shot, I would guess that it goes LGD followed by EStar, followed by OMG, followed by Victory 5. But that Victory 5 and OMG are pretty close as far as what their ownership ends up. I think a lot of people are going to have lost faith in OMG from that first matchup, and a lot of people are pretty high on Victory 5 after their first matchup. As far as leverages, It makes sense to go something like LGD Victory 5 to try to gain some leverage, but for GPPs, that's very interesting. For cash games, I do think you should go OMG. You could try to... It'd be big leverage in cash if you went with Victory 5. I don't think we got to see the best of OMG in their first series. They have some alright players. Like, SMLZ has looked absolutely putrid this season so far. Icon in general is still pretty good. Curse is a very good player. Hacker, the problem with him is that this is just not his metagame. Like, we're seeing a lot of Nidalee and Graves. That's not what I want to see Hacker on. But he is a good solid jungler at the very least. For cash, I think I would go with OMG and LGD. I think that's probably my favorite combination for cash. But it's a very interesting slate. By far the most interesting slate we've had so far as who was going to win and trying to predict things like that. Let's take a look at my ownerships page that I have been keeping track of. You can see that whoever is the fourth priced team on the slate, the highest ownership they've got to in the Titan or the 333 was 28% in the Titan, which was only 22%, or 22% in the Titan, 28% in the 333. And that was Victory 5 in their first matchup of the season, where I do think a lot of people were kind of on Victory 5, as I was. When you look at the winning lineup style, you can see the standard 4-2 so far has taken down 4 out of 6 of these different types of tournaments, with a game stack winning the very first Titan, and a jungle captain downgrade won the Titan on day 2. On day 3, it was just standard 4-2s for both the Titan and the 333. So a lot of people last season kept coming to me whenever they would see a game stack win, and they would say, like, oh, are we supposed to be playing game stacks? Is that what you do on 2-game slates? Part of the reason I kept track of this is I wanted to show you that even though they don't pay out as much when they win, the standard 4-2 still is probably going to be the most owned winning lineup for either the Titan or the 333. Now, admittedly, the guy that won with this game stack, I think, got something like 20,000, and this 4-2 that won the Titan was worth like $1,500. So it's a huge difference. That is why I tell you to go with jungle downgrades or mid downgrades or game stacks or something if you're going to play the Titan, and not go with the 4-2, because you'd much rather hit this, 1/5 as often than bink these 4-2s in these. But when you're playing bigger stuff or the single entries, the 333, if you look at, sorry about that, guys. If you look at the 333, every single night it's just been a standard 4-2. And that's going to be the case for a lot of like the single entries and stuff like that. So definitely still the thing to do if you're playing the smaller fields. Let's look at projections real quick. Sorry, my dogs might make a little bit of noise in the background today. But looking at projections, it seems like the highest projected teams, V5 is actually getting a very good projection considering they're playing against OMG. That doesn't surprise me. I think this Victory 5 team is going to be a very bloody team. In the jungle, it's a little bit higher for LGD, and I think LGD and EStar in general is probably going to be the bloodier matchup. At 80 carry, the highest one, Victory 5. Those numbers are still a little bit skewed. I talked about this in the last Victory 5 video. Even when you're using a model like this, you have to understand the way that the model works and where it might have deficiencies. And I do think there might be a deficiency with Victory 5 because they have so little winning data from last year and from this year. They still only have 3 games of winning data. And so it's going to take a little bit for it to start to catch up to what their averages should be. I think probably their expectations on the slate might be a little bit high, especially against a team like OMG. But that will, as it continues to gain more data, it's going to get better and better and better. And I still think by far it's the best tool that exists. I would definitely be leaning more towards EStar LGD as your heavier stacked game for sure. So if in cash, I think that LGD... excuse me, if I think LGD is going to be the better play in cash, then LGD OMG, you can see EStar is actually the most expensive on the slate, followed by OMG, and then LGD is third. So in theory, we might be able to fit 80 carry captain playing those. Let's have a look. We would want to be on the LGD side, since we think that will be the bloodier matchup. So let's just try going 80 carry captain real quick. We'll look at the OMG LGD. It looks like the OMG player you would want to be on would be Curse, which does not surprise me. Curse is a guy that can definitely have carry type games. So let's do that and then fill it out with LGD players. Yeah, plenty of money left over. So it's very easy to get a cash lineup of OMG LGD. If you wanted to go the other way with EStar, let's see how that works out. I just like to run through these and see if see what is doable and what's not. When you go with OMG and EStar, the second OMG player you want is support, weirdly enough. And then you'd fill out with EStar. $4,500 left over, so you're not going to be able to get an 80 carry captain that way. Switching 80 carries I don't think will make a difference. Occasionally this is a lineup that you can go with if you need to save money. That gets you up to 5,300 on this LGD. Yeah, 4,700, not even close. So if you want to go with these two, we can try knocking down to mid. And it's the support. I'm really surprised that that ended up that way, to be honest with you. Xiao Bai is a very good support, or a very good top laner who scores very well, just like Curse. But Xiaoxi in general was very, very good as well. So I'm surprised that it leans this way. We already have him. We go Wei. We go to Xiao Bai. 4,600 left over there, so we actually didn't even gain ourselves any money really by switching over to that side. If we switch to Icon Captain, does that do anything for us? I highly doubt it, but let's have a look. Always worth checking it out. Sometimes it ends up being better than you think. So it looks like you're going to have to go down to Jungle Captain, which shouldn't be a problem at all. We'll double check to make sure, but this should be an easy fit. Xiao Bai, Fen, Wink. And yeah, 5,500 left over, which is actually not even enough to get OMG. So you'd even have to switch to Hacker Captain if you wanted to get a Jungle Captain with these two teams. Yeah, you can fit a Jungle Captain just barely, but you have to play Hacker Captain with 4 EStar. Let's have a look. Is there a place that money can be saved in there? It's 400 less, 400 less, only 200 less in mid lane. So you can play Wei Captain if instead of playing your second OMG player as Cold, if you play Xiaoxi instead. And then in mid, play Icon. No. What did I do wrong? Oh, he's only 200 less. It's the opposite. I'm sorry, guys. 400 there. Only 200. Only 200 in the jungle. And 400 in the top lane. So yeah, if you want to play even Jungle Captain, you're going to have to go either a 3-3. Any 3-3 should do it with Wei. But the way that the matches project, I don't think you'd want to go 3-3. I think you'd want to be on 4 EStar, which would lean you to an OMG Captain. If we play Curse, Hacker, Fen, Wink, and Cold, that fits. So you can play the 3-3, 632.3, doing it that way. Now let's try the other way. That was 632.3. And if we just play the Hacker Captain with 4, $635. So it comes out just slightly better to go with the Hacker Captain. Sorry, I need to turn my phone off there. The Hacker Captain for EStar projects just slightly better than doing the 3-3 with Wei Captain. I talk about it once again. I talk about it in my choosing your captain video, but who your captain is for a lot of times for the projections is not going to matter nearly as much as making sure you're getting the right players. So, slight edge to the Hacker Captain for EStar. That seems like the cash lineup if you want to play with EStar. I think, especially given what we just saw, like what did we come out with when we did the 80 carry captain? Obviously, if this team loses, this doesn't matter, but I'm just interested to see what the ceiling shows up at when you play the LGD version instead, I'm guessing the ceiling is really, really high. Oh, no, it's only 631. The projections are so high on EStar that it actually goes lower that way, but I think I still prefer the LGD cash lineup, so I would go with that. As far as GPPs, I think LGD V5 or EStar V5 make a lot of sense. OMG's ceiling is pretty low. I mean, if they win, you need them in your lineup, but their ceiling is pretty low. Victory 5, I think their ceiling is pretty high. OMG's floor is very low. We saw it against RNG. They can be absolutely abysmal at times. It makes sense to me to just kind of take your sides in this match and go V5 if you're going GPP. Even though I think the ownerships are going to be very, very close, V5 still kind of grades out to be lower owned than everybody else. I think I would stay away from something like the Titan on a slate like this. I know it's hard to give up the big dream, but I think I would stay away from the Titan, and I would play stuff like single entries on this slate. I'm just not sure with the way the ownerships are going to be for this slate that there's really even a profitable long-term way to play the Titan. So I won't play it tonight. Things like the 333, stuff like that, I'll be in. Single entries, definitely cash games. 2-game slates, cash games all over the place for me. It's definitely the best place to be playing cash games. GPPs, when we get to the 5-game slates, you're going to see me probably maxed out in a lot of different GPPs. But on these slates, I play some entries here and there in GPP, but it's mostly cash games for me. It's tough to give up the dream for a night, believe me. But I don't think there's... It's very, very high variance and very, very small edge, and you can just get an edge better other ways, I think. Better to play the single entries than cash games. Just to go over the stats real quick for the teams before I get out of here on you. OMG, LGD, when you go that way, it's Curse that shows up as the OMG player. We kind of had already talked about that, but generally leaning towards LGD with Curse being the OMG guy that you're looking to get the most. OMG and EStar. Heavily towards EStar, but it's Cold and Curse as the OMG players that you're interested in getting in your lineups. The carries in the jungle, you're looking for EStar for the most part. Victory 5 paired with LGD. Heavy Victory 5, LGD gets the pip in the jungle just a little bit, which makes sense to me. Peanut was a much more aggressive jungler last season versus Weiwei. A second player, you can go to the mid lane and get Fen. That makes sense as well. To get ZA, over Fen. That makes sense to me as well. Although neither ZA or Fen are really like pop-off type mid laners. Both the 80 carries for these two teams are definitely pop-off 80 carries. It's lucky that if you play LGD V5, it's pretty easy to get 80 carry captain, because those guys for these teams are definitely the pop-off guys. If you go Victory 5 and EStar, this is the most split one. You can see Victory 5 projects higher 80 carry support and top, and EStar projects higher mid and jungle. Kind of makes sense. You might try, if you're looking for like a lower owned captain lineup for something like the Titan, maybe you go towards the mids. I know the 80 carries for V5 and EStar both project very, very well, but V5, Mole always has a chance to pop off. Fen, we don't really know what he's going to look like with this team. It's possible he turns that around. And I think it makes sense with the mid-jungle duos for EStar that they could have a big game there. So that's how you would play that one. With EStar, the two players you're trying to get in, Fen in the mid lane and Wei in the jungle, with heavier towards V5. Very, very interesting slate. No idea really what to expect from it. I'm going to be playing a lot of cash, like I said, and probably leaning towards LGD and OMG in my cash lineups. Hedging a little bit into GPPs with some Victory 5 paired with both LGD and EStar. Probably won't see an OMG lineup in GPPs for me. So, I don't know, an interesting one, guys. As usual, hit me up on Twitter and the Discord. I think it's a very weird slate that's going to have something very weird happening in it. And the ownerships, I'm very excited to see how the ownerships turn out. So, any further questions, feel free to hit me up, guys. Appreciate you, and I'll talk to everybody later.